I thought I'll do this one stotra. It's called Marga Bandhu Stotra. It's a prayer, a very beautiful prayer to Lord Shiva. Where Lord Shiva is called as Marga Bandhu. So Bandhu, meaning we all know. Bandhu is a friend or even a relative. A relation is called Bandhu. Snehena mano badnati yaha saha Bandhu. There's a definition for a Bandhu. Bandhu is the one who binds you, who you get bound with by sneha, by affection. So because of affection is also a bondage, some kind of a bondage. So relatives are like that. For us relatives we call Bandhu. So because Bandhu means you're stuck with them. There's one kind of Bandhu, you're stuck. You can't, whatever it is, at the end of the day, who is there for you? It's only a relative, brother, sister, whatever ups and downs in life may be there. At the end of the day, they are the only ones who are somebody who's like a brother or sister. It's true, We find that as we get older in life. So this close blood, that's why they say blood is thicker than water, So this is one kind of Bandhu. But then it is also Bandhu, you can't get away from them. Some of them we want to get away from. So they bind us. In a way, they bind us. We are tied to them. But then, this is Marga Bandhu is different. This Bandhu is the one who frees you. There's a different kind of a Bandhu. Bandhu is a friend also, a companion. Everybody needs a companion in life. Really speaking, there is nobody who is without somebody. One needs a friend. You need somebody. At every age of life, at every stage of life, I find that is very true. Even a sannyasi needs somebody, I tell you. It's just a funny idea we have that they don't need anybody. They need somebody. They have somebody also. Somebody or either a shishya will be there accompanying them all the time. Or even if nobody is around, Bhagwan is there. They are connected to the Lord. So the Lord becomes their Bandhu. So there may be all kinds of Bandhus who bind us. But then there is one Bandhu who frees us. He releases us from bondage. So who is that? That is what is called as Marga Bandhu. So Marga Bandhu is a traveling companion. The traveling companion always makes the journey easier. Alone you travel is hard. But if you have a companion to pass the time, especially on long flights, you realize when you're suppose you're flying to India, and really speaking, you don't talk to the person who's sitting next to you at all. Then it's a long time it takes unless you're sleeping all the time. So it's difficult. But the one who makes any journey easier is a traveling companion. Who's the best companion one can have in life? One who's always there with you, to share whatever it is, and also one who's there, gives you support. That is Bhagavan alone. So thus, he says here, he is called as Marga Bandhu. So the one who is a companion. If I can make God, Bhagavan, as my companion in life, and who I feel always is with me, I never feel alone. So this particular stotram, stotram is a stuti, is a praise. It's a prayer in the form of a praise of the Lord. It's called as, so Guna Sankirta Namakam Stotram. Stotram is a prayer which praises the gunas, the qualities of the Lord. And because we have to, why qualities? See, we praise the Lord by identifying qualities. What's the purpose of that? Generally, when we address people, so we address them with adjectives, positive or negative. So this one is like that, this one is like that. We use a lot of adjectives when we talk about people. Really speaking, it's not a good thing. One should talk about them with nouns. With nouns, pronouns is okay. But then adjectives means we pass judgments on people all the time. But then here, Bhagavan, when we praise the Lord, one of the things we do is we use adjectives all the time. We do stuti, praise of the Lord. But that is too not because we are trying to praise the Lord, but in praising the Lord, we recognize who the Lord is. Because Lord is nothing but praise. So the great qualities that we see that are there around us, manifestations of all vibhutis is what is Bhagavan. So thus, in identifying qualities, the gunas of the Lord, what we are really doing is we are trying to recognize what is the Lord's manifestation, what is His Swarupa, so that we can identify, we can recognize. We say Bhagavan is there around all the time, but then not easy to recognize because we don't perceive it. It's like seeing a modern art. One has to know, one has to be educated in order to appreciate what is there, what is the message there conveyed. So that, like we saw the poem Rabindranath Tagore, as I was telling. So in his poems we see that he is able to discover the sanctity around him. So that requires, so that is an expression, stuti, in praise. When we do that, it is really more for our benefit, so that we can learn to recognize what the Lord is. So thus, Guna Sankirtanatmakam Stotram, so Marga Bandhu Stotram, it is called. It is some kind of upasana also, prayer. This was written by one Appaya Dikshitar. So Appaya Dikshitar, who lived from 1520 to 1593, and his grandfather was in the Sri Krishna Deva Raya's time. So he was in the court of Sri Krishna Deva Raya, a great scholar. His grandson was this Appaya Dikshitar, who was also a great scholar, who was honored by the king. He wrote a number of works in Sanskrit, number of stotrams, one of which is this one. His Kula Devata. So we have deities, different temples are there, and everybody has some Kula Devata. We have Ishta Devata, Grama Devata. Ishta Devata is Lord, which is Ishta, which we have a particular affinity for a particular deity. In our tradition, you go to any altar in anybody's house, there are many deities there. Many deities there. But then each one of us has an affinity. So some has an affinity for Shiva, somebody has an affinity for Krishna. So like that, each one has their own affinity, which changes also sometimes. It changes in life. But then, that is called Ishta Devata. Then we have Grama Devata. Grama Devata is a particular temple connected to a village. So that's kind of the deity, the main deity, where everybody in the village goes to that temple. So they have a certain connection. Anything happening in that temple, in the village, so they will have festivals in the temple, there will be pujas there, etc. So that becomes like a Grama Devata. And then like that we have Kula Devata also. Kula Devata is a family. So a given family will be, you would have grown up like that, where you go to a particular temple regularly, etc. So you get connected to that. And then the children pick up the same trend. So that is what is called as, he becomes a Kula Devata. So for this Appaya Dikshitar, there was a temple in a place called Virinchipuram in Vellore district in Tamil Nadu. There is this temple, Shiva temple. It's very ancient. It's considered one of the biggest and the oldest temples in India, in Tamil Nadu, in Vellore district. This where the Shiva, the deity, is called as Margabandhu. So there, Lord Shiva is the Margabandhu or Marga Sahaya. The story goes that, so Sthala Purana, every temples are associated with some stories are connected to that. That is called as Sthala Purana. So in this temple it is said that, so Lord Brahmaji offered worship to Lord Shiva there. And there's one thing very unique about this temple is, on a particular day in Phalguni Masa, so when the sun rises, the light of the sun falls on the Shiva Lingam, which is inside the sanctum. That's how it's been constructed. So it's called Bhaskara Kshetram. There are some temples are like that, where the sun will fall on the deity. Those are called as Bhaskara Kshetram, because Bhaskara, sun lights it up. So anyway, this is the background connected to this particular prayer written by him. So let us see. So you can recite after me as I say. Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Okay, so I'll recite the whole line. Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho. Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Mahadeva Deva. So this is a chorus, okay? It keeps repeating. So Shambho. Shambho is, O Lord, Sham Bhavati Yasmat, the one who gives Sham. Sham is well-being, Sukham, the one because of whom one gains happiness. You think of the Lord, you gain a tranquility. Sukham in the form of tranquility. Also Sukham as something opposed to Dukkham. Again, Bhagavan gives that. So he is called as Shambhu. Shambhu. Shambhu, and the vocative case of Shambhu is Shambho. O Shambho. Mahadeva, we know the meaning. So he is Mahadeva, Mahan. He is the, among the gods, he is the greatest. Mahadeva. He says, Mahadeva, Mahadeva, Mahadevetyayam dhvanihi, samsara sarpa dashtanam, divyaushadam anuttamam. In Shiva Puranam. So Mahadeva word, in the north you see this is being used a lot, hey Mahadev, they'll say. So Mahadev Dhvani. So Dhvani is the sound, just the sound of Mahadev like that. Like Ram. Ram is another Dhvani. The Dhvani itself gives you a certain tranquility within. Listening to that Nama. So the same way Mahadev Nama also, just listening to the Dhvani of the Lord, he says, it is samsarya sarpa drashtanam aushada. So it's a medicine for what? For the bite of samsara sarpa. Samsara itself like a snake bite. It's a snake bite of samsara. The poison that you get, the anti-venom, the antidote for that is what? Is just the name of the Mahadeva, Sri Lord Shiva. So, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Deva is the one who gives wisdom, the one who is in the form of knowledge. Divyati, Deepam, etc., light. So, Deva is the one who is in the form of light, the one who is effulgent, the one who is in the form of knowledge. Hey Deva, Shiva. Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho. He is Shiva. Shiva is Mangalam. Shiva means Mangalam, auspiciousness. So the one whose very name is auspicious. Shiva Nama is called Dvayakshara. So there are two aksharas, in Shiva. This Akshara Dvayam is itself considered to be very, it gives lot of punyam. Recitation, japa, like a mantra. Shiva, Shiva, Shiva. Shiva, 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 Shiva. That Shiva mantra, like Ram, Ram, Ram. Similarly, Akshara Dvayam it is called as, It is said, see, it is Vidyasu Shrutirus Utkrishta. Raudreka Dashani Shrutau Tasya Panchakshari Tasyam Shiva iti Akshara Dvayam. Shrutau, among all the knowledge, among all the forms of knowledge, Vidyasu, what is the most exalted? Shruti. Among all forms of Ashtadisha Vidyas are there are 18 Vidyas. There are the 4 Vedas. Then there are 6 Vedangas. Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chandas, Niruktam, Kalpam, Jyotisham. So there are 6 6 Vedangas, then there are 4 Upavedas, and then 4 Upangas. So total, these 18 branches of knowledge are there, well known in our tradition. So this covers the whole gamut of all kinds of knowledge. So among these knowledges, he says Vidyasu, Ashtadasha Vidyasu, the most exalted is what? Shruti. Shruti is the scriptures. Our scripture in the form of Veda. Shruti Uskrishta. Among the Shrutis, so Shruti is vast, voluminous. The most exalted is what? It is Ekadasha Rudran. You know, the Rudram. So Rudram is a prayer, so which is there in the Vedas and which we recite, made up of, so 11 chapters. So 11 sections are there, therefore it's called as Ekadasha Rudra. You know, they'll do Ekadasha Rudra Japam and all they do in the temples. So this, among all the whole scripture, Ekadasha Rudram is the most exalted. Then Ekadasha Rudram also, if you don't have time to sit down and chant, then what? Among that, he says, Tatra Panchakshari. In Ekadasha Rudra, there is Panchakshari. Which is, what is Panchakshari, you know? So, Om Namah Shivaya. It's called as Panchakshari. It has 5 aksharas. Namah Shivaya. Om is not counted. So, this Namah Shivaya is called as Panchakshari. Among them, Panchakshari is for Japa. That's why we do this for Japa. Rudram is also recited for Japa. So, thus Panchakshari is the most exalted. Om Namah Shivaya. Within the Panchakshari again, so what is this particular one? Aksharadvayam, Shiva. The name Shiva. So thus, there is, what is the, so Shiva. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha. Hey Devesha, O Lord, the one who is the Lord among all the Devas. Devanam Ishaha is Devesha, the Lord of all the gods. Shambho Mahadeva. This is just a chorus which is where everybody is just calling out to Lord Shiva. Phalavanam Vrat Kiritam Phala Netrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam Phala Netrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam Shulahatarati Kutam Shuddham Ardhendu Chudam Bhaje Margabandhum Shuddha Chudam Bhaje Margabandhum Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Phalavanam Vrat Kiritam. Kiritam is a crown. Phalam is forehead. Avanam Vrat, So the ones who, so you're the one for whom all the devas, so they bow down to you. That's what it says. So they put their foreheads at your feet. Or Padavanam Vrat Kiritam. It's another version. So the gods, you are the one, O Lord Shiva, to whom all the gods, all the other deities, they offer their worship to you. So, Phala Netrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam. Phala Netram. Phalam, I said correct. Phala Netram is, so the eye, the third eye. Phala Netra Archita. By the rays of the third eye, what happened? He says, Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam. So you burnt. You're the one who burnt by the rays of your eyes. What? But the one who carries these 5 arrows. You know who's that? The one who carries the 5 arrows is, so Manmatha. Manmatha. Kamadeva. Manmatha or Kamadeva. You know these stories. It's all connected to Puranas. So, Purana, Manmatha is the god, our Kamadeva. The god of love. So he carries these arrows, bow and arrow. Cupid. carries bows and arrows. And what are his arrows? His arrows are flowers. No, his arrows are of flowers. So he is called as Pancha Ishu, the one who carries these five arrows. It says, these arrows, you know what they are? It's interesting. Aravindam Ashokam cha Chutam cha Navamallika Deenotpalam cha Panchete Pancha Banasya Sayaka. He carries a banam, a bow, with 5 arrows of flowers. What flowers are these? These are Aravindam. Aravindam is the sun. The sun lotus. It's called sun lotus. Then Ashokam. Ashokam is some kind of a red flower. Chutam is the flower of a mango tree. Then Navamallika is jasmine. And Nilotpalam is the blue lotus. So these are the varieties of flowers he carries. And then what does he do with them? He shoots it at you. He shoots it at you. And what does that cause? You know what it causes? Sammohana unmodanau cha soshanas tapanas tatha stambhanas cheti kamasya pancha banaha prakirtinaha. So these 5 arrows cause all kinds of problems. He says, sammohanam, infatuation. Then unmadanam. Unmadanam is so intoxication. Shoshanaha, emaciation. Tapanaha, absorption. And stambhanam, stupor, affliction. You know, these are all kinds of. So it incapacitates a person. This is Manmatha. You know this story in the Puranas. So Lord Shiva is always in meditation. He's always depicted in meditation. He's somebody who abides in himself. He has transcended all the worldly senses. And so he is lost in meditation. And the Devas, Devas need him. So for worldly things or matters are going on, Shiva is always lost in meditation. Sometimes you require his department, his use is there. He is not available to the Devas. So Devas want to wake him up. And they are not able to wake him up. He is so absorbed in himself. So they send this Manmatha. They send the Kamadeva to wake him up. And the Kamadeva tries to wake him up. And then it doesn't work. And then he wakes him up. Then it disturbs him. Kamadeva disturbs him. He opens his eyes and destroys him. So this is the story of Kamadeva. Really speaking, in this story it says, so when they send Kamadeva to wake him up, it doesn't work. Then they ask Parvati to wake up Lord Shiva. And then Parvati wakes him up through meditation. So through Dhyanam, she is able to evoke him from his meditation. So which is Bhagavan is like that. The Kamadeva represents senses. So pursuit of senses. There's all kinds of love. There is a love connected to Vishayas, objects. So as long as that Vishaya Prema is not able to wake up Lord Shiva, to reach oneself, to reach the Lord oneself, within oneself, it is not about reaching sense objects. It is about reaching through meditation one's own nature, one's own Swarupa. So thus Manmatha never works with Lord Shiva, but it is always Dhyanam, Shakti. So the Shakti herself and Parvati always is able to wake him up because she is in the form of Shakti and she wakes him up with prayer and with Dhyanam. So thus that is the idea behind this. So he is the one who did what? So Phala Netrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kita Manmatha, the one whose Manmatha couldn't stand in front of Lord Shiva. Shula Hatarati Kutam. Shulam. You know Shulam? Trishula. Lord Shiva has this Trishula. It is the weapon, his weapon. It is three-pronged, The Trishulam is meant for the destruction. All our gods carry weapons. Why? Not because they are troublemakers. It's not like carrying a gun. It's not like you carry a gun or you carry a knife They're also always ready to fight. Not because they're ready to fight. A weapon in the hand of the Lord means what? It is a weapon for protection, indicates protection. So thus, when I pray to the Lord, I pray to the Lord as one who protects me. So as one who protects me, his weapon means weapon there means I feel protected. They will also do puja to the weapon, Sometimes associated you will see. So Trishul, sometimes in India you see this altar will be there, Trishul will be sitting there. There is nothing else there. There is only Trishulam there. Or veil. Veil is for the spear. Veil is for Lord Muruga, Shanmuga, Kartikeya. So veil will be sitting. So like that even on the altar they will keep. It stands for protection. I feel protected. When I think of the Lord, I feel protected. So Trishulam is a three-pronged weapon which is going to protect me from what? From this, Putrecha, Vittecha and Lokecha. These are three types of desires which bind a person. So desire for Putram, Vittam and Loka. Putram is progeny. Then Vittam is wealth, which stands for any possession, material possession, and Lokas are even heaven, etc. So these are called as Eshana Trayam. So the one, in order to protect me from bondage born of this Eshana Trayam, I have the Trishulam of the Lord, the three-pronged weapon that is going to help me. So the one who carries this three-pronged weapon, and with whom also he struck Ahatarati Kutam. He struck was Arati are enemies. So with the weapons, the one who strikes enemy, not necessarily a person. Enemy means which is inimical to me. What is inimical to me, to my growth as a person? My own attitudes, my own feelings, my own issues. These are all I have become my own enemy. I have become my own friend. So that those things which are there that are inimical to my own growth, to myself, I need the protection of the Lord. So the Lord who gives me that protection, the one who has this Trishulam with him, Shuddham Ardendu Chudam. Shuddham, Ardendu. Hindu is moon. So Ardendu is the crescent. The crescent moon. The one who has the crescent moon on his crest, on his head, which is white, pure. Bhaje, aham bhaje. I worship. So I worship the Lord who is in this particular form, who is Marga Bandhu, who is the companion in my journey of life. Okay. Ange virajat bhujangam. Ange virajat bhujangam. Apragangatarangabhiramottamangam. Apragangatarangabhiramottamangam. Omkaravati kurangam. Siddha samsevitangri bhaje margabandhum. Siddha samsevitangri Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Shambho Mahadeva Deva Ange Virajat Bhujangam. Ange, on a body. On his body is what? Virajam is the one that is shining, seen prominently. His Bhujangam. Bhujanga is so Angam is the body. Bhujam is the one who has bent. It's called snakes. So the snake's body is always not straight. It's called Bhujanga. So thus the one who is decorated, whose body is adorned with what? With these shining snakes. Snakes have a certain glaze on them. So the snakes stand for what? Shakti. Snakes stand for power. always Shakti in all many traditions. Even the Egyptian tradition we see. So snake is a symbol of power. Because, so without a backbone, it can stand. Yeah. That requires Shakti, So if you ever try to do headstand in yoga, it's not easy to do headstand, when you attempt. The whole body topples like that. Even with all our bones, Even with our bones, it's difficult to maintain that. So a snake is one, some of them, more than half of their body they can raise up. It's all muscle, just muscle power. So that power is always represented by a snake. In traditions called Shakti. Also stands for Kala, time, Kala or Mrityu. So the one the Lord who adorns, means he is not subject to time. He is not conditioned by time. All our strength, all our power, all our greatness, all our ego, all our arrogance, everything disappears. Disappears with what? In time. Time. Yeah. All our beauty, whatever it may be, time eats into everything. Ultimately humbles everybody. Yeah, humbles everybody. So Kalaha is like that. Kalaha humbles everybody, takes over everybody. But then he is they say the strongest thing in the world, whatever it may be, which seems like it is indestructible. In time it will decay. Even the nuclear atoms also, nuclear energy, it all they have a half-life. They also disappear in time, Kalaha. Whereas Bhagavan is the only one who is not. So time itself becomes an adornment for him, not something that takes over him. So his whole body, Anga, is the one decorated with these Bhujanga snakes. Abra Ganga Tarangavi Ramottamangam. Uttamangam. Anga we know. Anga is what? Anga means limb. Any limb is called Anga. Hands, legs. Uttamanga. Uttamanga is the most exalted limb. Which is that? Which is head. Naturally. So Uttamanga is the head. Abra Ganga. Abram is the sky. Heavens. Abra Ganga is Gangaji. So the Gangaji, the heavenly Ganga. The heavenly Ganga, Tarangas are the waves. Abhiramottamangam. So who's very pleasing in the form, this Gangaji, she adorns what? The Uttamangam, the head. So he is the one, the Lord, on whose head is this Gangaji, the heavenly Ganga, who descended. Gangaji was in the heavens. And then it is said, Gangaji is born of, she is connected to all the three, Trimurti. Because in Vamana Avatara, so when in the second boon that is asked for, the 3 steps he takes. Bhagavan takes 3 steps as Vamana. So Vamana, then he becomes big. First step covers the whole, all that is seen, the earth. Second step he takes covers the heavens. So they say when the second step he took, his foot was in the heavens. So suppose, Bhagavan's foot suddenly lands here, what are you going to do? There's a chance, So you take the chance. So Brahmaji took the chance to worship the feet. So at that time, since he put his foot in the heavens, so Brahmaji happened to be there. Not happened to be there, of course, is there. So then he takes the opportunity and he washes the feet of the Lord with the water from his Kamandalu. So he says, he says, Adau Adi Pitamahasya Niyama Vyapara Patre Jalam. So Adau, first, Gangaji is born of the Jalam, is the water. The water that was in the Patram, in the vessel, in the Kamandalu, held by Brahmaji, when he washed the feet of Lord Vishnu, Adau, Paschat, Patraga Shayino Bhagavataha, Padodakam Pavanam. So first comes from the Kamandalu of Brahmaji. Then she is what? She is the Padodakam Pavanam. She is the water. She is the water from the feet of Lord Vishnu. He says Patraga Shainam. You know Patraga Shainam? So Patraga Shainam is the one who lies on the leaf. Who is the one who lies on the leaf? So it's all culture, So who's the one lying on the leaf? So Krishna. Remember you see pictures of Sri Krishna as a baby on a leaf. It's a very common picture you see. So he is called as Patraga Shainaha. So that is Lord Vishnu. So the one who came from Brahmaji, then she became so water from the feet of Vishnu. Then Bhuyaha Shambhu Jata Vibhushana Manim Jahor Maharshirib Jahnor Maharsheriyam Kanya Kalmasha Nashini Bhagavati Bhagirathi Bhutale. So then she becomes Bhuya Shambhu Jata Vibhushana Manihi. She is the money, the jewel that adorns the jata hair of Lord Shiva. That's what she is. Then Janno Manirshiriyam. Then she becomes Jannu Maharshi. So Bhagirathi, she's called Bhagirathi because Bhagirathi was the one who prayed in order to get Gangaji from the heavens, he says. Then when she came down, so she's called Bhagirathi. Then this Jannu Muni, his ashramam was there. And then she floods his ashram. And he's a great rishi. So he gets disturbed. His ashram is going to get washed off. So he swallows her. And then again Bhagirathi prays to him and then she comes out. She comes out of his ear. So she's called Jahnavi. Because Gangaji has many names, So in the north, as soon as she comes from the Gangotri, it's not Ganga, it is called Bhagirathi. Then later on she's also called Jahnavi. And then later on she becomes Ganga. Mandakini, some other rivers join and then she becomes Ganga further down. So this is Ganga. So she says he is the one who adorns the head of Lord Shiva, adorned by this Ganga Devi. Omkara Vati Kurangam. Kuranga is a deer. The deer is O Lord Shiva, the one who is like a deer who's wandering around, running around in this Vati. Vati is a forest. Omkara Vati. So Omkara, imagine this forest which is just nothing but Om. In Omkara, Om is nothing but this forest and you are the deer that is in this forest, roaming around, running around, playing around. That means this is Omkara. Omkara Bindu Samyuktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yoginaha Kamadam Mokshadam Chaiva Omkaraya Namo Namaha. So thus he says. So Lord Shiva is called as Omkara. Lord Shiva is Omkara. Omkaraya Namo Namaha. My salutations to the one who is in the form of Omkara, in the form of Om. Because Om means Bhagavan. The meaning of the word etymologically, phonetically, the meaning of Om is the Lord. If I have to give a name to the Lord, what name am I going to give? I have to give some name which describes the Lord. So what name will describe the Lord? Who is the Lord? Depends on who the Lord is. That's why when we call people names, how do we pick the name? Depending on who they are, what they are, and how I perceive them. So thus I have to give Lord a name. What name am I going to give the Lord? Well, the Lord is everything. Because the Lord is everything. So any name I give, it should include all names naturally. Everything has a name. A thing, an object is associated with a nama. Any rupam is associated with nama. So thus, if the Lord is all forms, that means he has to be all names also. All names have to be put together to form a long compound in order to name the Lord. Or I can name the Lord phonetically. So phonetically, by creating a name which includes the first letter and the last letter and all the letters in between, all the sounds. So when I open my mouth and make a sound, the sound that comes out is ah. When I close the mouth, finally the sound that comes out is mm. So thus between a and mm, all the sounds, all the letters get articulated. All the letters get articulated. That's why baby always, in every language, it is either ma, amma, like that. Because there's nothing much to say. All a baby does is open the mouth and close the mouth, which is what it's doing all the time anyway. So thus that is the first sound that comes out. So if I have to name the Lord with a name that includes all names, it is Om. A, and the U in between indicates all other letters. A plus U become O plus makara makes Om. So thus phonetically the perfect name for the Lord is Om. So the one who is in the form of Om, Omkara Bindu Samyuktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yoginha. So the one who Nityam Dhyayanti, always are worshipped, meditated upon by the sages, by the yogis, he is called Omkara. So thus he is what? He is Omkara Vati Turanga, means he is the one who is always in meditation. He is always in meditation. Who does he meditate upon? Everybody meditates upon. One kid asked this question one time in the class. So, everybody meditates on Lord Shiva. Then why is he meditating? Who does he meditate on? Does he meditate on another god, or maybe Vishnu, or somebody else? So he meditates on Vishnu. Vishnu meditates on Shiva. It's all mutual thing. So it's not like that. Back scratching, no. So he meditates upon himself, his own Swarupa. He's like even a deer who's wandering around in this Omkara Vati. Omkara Vati Kurangam Siddha Samsevit Angri Bhaje Marga Bandham. So the one who is worshipped by Siddha Purushas. Siddha Purusha means wise people. The one who is worshipped Nityan Dhyayanti Yoginaha. So the one who is worshipped by yogis, the one who is worshipped by siddhas, those themselves who are accomplished. So he is Shambhu. Bhaje. Bhaje means I worship you. Okay. Nityam Chidananda Rupam. Nihnutasesha Lokesha Vairi Pratapam. Kartaswaragendra Chapam Krittivasam Bhaje Divya Sanmarga Bandhum Vasam Bhaje Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Mahadeva Deva Nityam Chidananda Rupam. So he is Omkara Rupa. He is also in the form of what is Bhagavan? Satchidananda Swarupa. That which is the nature of the Atma, in fact, which is Satchidananda Swarupa. Bhagavan also is. Brahman is what? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So the Lord itself, who is the same, the form of the Atma, in the form of Sat. Sat is that which exists. That which never can be negated. Chit is the one who is in the form of consciousness, in the form of knowledge, and Anandam is the one who is limitless. That limitlessness which expresses as joy, as Ananda. He says Nityam Swarupam. His Swarupa is like that. Nihnutashesha Lokesha Vairi Pratapam. Pratapam, Vairi Pratapam. The pride of the enemies, the one who removed the pride of enemies. Ravana became very proud because he was able to conquer, defeat all the devas. So Ravana becomes very proud. Then he thinks, I can defeat Lord Shiva also. So he tries to lift Lord Shiva along with Kailasha, along with the mountain. And so Lord Shiva, with his toe, he presses his toe down, and this fellow gets trapped. He gets trapped under the mountain. Then he has to pray to Lord Shiva to please let him go. Then he lets him go. So thus he says, the one who destroyed the pride of people, of enemies, of Rakshasas, Asuras. See, Ravana was a great, don't forget, Ravana was a great bhakta of Shiva. Okay, so he is a great bhakta of Shiva. And then Shiva gives him boons also. He blesses him. But then he becomes proud. So what happens, See, boons means what? We get things. We are all helpless in the beginning, You don't have much. In fact, whatever we have, whether we have or not, we always feel we don't have. Because we are always wanting more and more and more. So that means what? We are basically deprived. So irrespective of what we have, we basically are deprived people. We just want more and more and more things out of life, in life. So we pray. We pray to the Lord. You please help me this, give me that, give me that, give me that. And the Lord obliges also. The Lord obliges with the answers to the prayer, etc. Situations open up, things happen in life, and we become successful. We get so much, and then what happens? Then it is all pride. It is all about pride, So before the exam, I must have prayed 1,000 times, to pass the exam. And then to pass somehow, struggle. Because deep down inside, I know I'm not capable. So pray, somehow you pass. And then you like this struggle, prayer, pass. Then he graduates. Then he graduates means what? Then he gets some certificates, and then he lines up all his walls with all his certificates and starts thinking that he got it, It is my effort. Suddenly it became all my effort. My success, my effort. Slowly pride creeps in, So on with simple people, it creeps in a simple way. If you happen to have more, it creeps in a big way. If you happen to be a Ravana who is able to defeat devas by the blessings of the other devas, etc., then he thinks he is somebody great. So this is what happened to him. So he was a great guy in the beginning. He was a great bhakta, but then later on, it got to him. It corrupted him. Power corrupts. So then still, because he is a bhakta, perhaps, so the Lord still protects him by reducing his ego. So he says, the one who did that, nihnuta, ashesham, means without anything remaining, the one who removed the pride. Kartasva ragendra chapam. So the one who has chapam is the bow. So the Kartasvara is the golden. So the one who wields the golden bow, made of what? Agaha. Agaha is mountain. So the one who wields this bow made of this mountain. Mandara. Mandara mountain, Parvatam, is from that Parvatam is Lord Shiva's bow made. This was made when he was trying to when he was going to conquer this Tripura, Tripura, the story? So Tripura, there was the city, the 3 cities, so which were built by 3 asuras. There was this asura, what's his name? Tarakasura, yeah. So Tarakasura was killed by Subramanya, Kartikeya, Lord Shiva's son. This Tarakasura has 3 sons. They are asuras. So they had this 3-fold city that was built, and then they were creating havoc. They had to be destroyed. So then the devas prayed to Lord Shiva. And then so in order to go take care of these asuras. And Lord Shiva says, okay. So all the devas create, each one, makes up all these different weapons, etc. Means their own shaktis, that's the idea. So all the devas, they all presiding deities of different Shaktis. This Devata means presiding deity of different powers, different laws, etc. So with all their Shaktis, they give him different weapons to go and help him fight this Asuras. And he goes. Now one of the weapons is this bow made of this Mandara mountain, golden mountain. Then you know what? The Lord Shiva goes there. In fact, doesn't use any weapon. He doesn't use any weapon because he doesn't need to use any weapon. With a smile, he destroys the city. Similar story for Durga also. You know, Durga, when Durga destroys Mahishasura, you know, there also. So she gets all these weapons from Devatas, but then really speaking, she doesn't need any of them in order to. The idea is Bhagavan doesn't need weapons. That's the idea. So anyway, so he is the one who has this bow made of this mountain, golden mountain. Krittivasam, the one who wears a dress made of what? Of just barks or skins. You know, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is like that. Dress reveals the person. You know, dress reveals the person. The varna, for example, you can tell from the dress whether the person is a brahmachari, whether he is a grahastha, whether he is a sannyasi. Like that we can tell from the attire, you know, whether he is a kshatriya, he is a brahmana. So this is because, you know, depending on the work you do, not like nowadays. Even president wears jeans. You know. So you can't tell, it doesn't even look like a president. So imagine olden days, no Raja is going to walk around with jeans. You know, because looking you have to tell who he is. So dress and all identify a person. So how do you identify Bhagavan? Bhagavan is something that transcends all ashramas, all varnas, all identities. So thus he is depicted as one just wearing barks or wearing skins. So skins of animals. Not any. It indicates he transcends varnashrama. So Kritti Vasam Bhaje Divya Sanmarga Bandhu. The one who's a bandhu, the one who's a companion for whom? For sanmargas, you know, people who are walking the path, satpurushas. People given to dharma. People given to a life, you know, when I live a life conforming to dharma, conforming to the moral order, then who's the moral order? You know, in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira is asked that question. Who stays with you, you know, in life? Who's your companion after life? He's asked this question. So because, you know, nobody, you leave behind everything. We are going to go alone. And am I really going to be alone? You know? Or am I going to have something with me? You know? This body also I leave behind. What am I going to have? Am I going to have the same stupid mind, you know, which has given me problems all my life? Imagine the same mind I'm going to carry means what? What did I get at the end of this whole thing? The same sorrows, the same suffering, the same regrets? What is it? No. He says your only companion is dharma. Dharma is what? So the universal, the order, the moral order. If I live a life of dharma, then that accompanies me. So that is, dharma is Ishvara. Really. So dharma is Ishvara. So if I am connected to dharma in the life, then dharma is with me all the way. If I am unconnected to dharma, that means what? I don't have that security. So therefore, he becomes a bandhu for whom? For people who are given to a life of sanmarga, who live a life of dharma. Okay. Kandarpadarpagnamisham Kalakantham Mahesham Mahavyomakesham Kundabadantam Suresham Koti Surya Prakasham Bhaje Margabandhum Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Shambho Mahadeva Deva Kandarpa Darpagnamesha. We saw this. So the one who darpa is arrogance, pride. So the one who destroyed the pride of whom? Kandarpa. Kandarpa is Manmatha or Kamadeva. So we saw this story. So the Lord who destroyed the arrogance, the vanity of Manmatha. Kala Kantham. Kalam means blue. The color blue or dark black is called Kala. He is Kala Kantham is the one whose throat is blue in color. These are called Neela Kantham. Shiva is called as Neelkantha, Neelakantha, the one whose throat became blue, because he drank that poison, the poison that came out of the churning of the Kshira Samudram. I'm just using this. I'm assuming you all know many of these things. So he drinks that, and then his throat becomes blue. Mahesham, the one who's the Lord, Mahan, is Ishaha, Ishvara, the great Lord. Mahavyomakesham is Vyomakeshi. So the one whose hair is spreads over the whole sky. When Gangaji wanted to come down, well, not Gangaji wanted to come down, but when Gangaji was coming down in response to the prayer, what happens? So Lord Shiva has to receive her on his head. He is the only one capable of doing that. Because she's coming from heavens, Otherwise she just comes. Ganga, if you've seen, Ganga takes away everything. She's so powerful, So in the rains, especially monsoons nowadays, it's going on there. When Ganga overflows the banks, nothing can withstand that. Even now. Because huge boulders, which will be like 10 feet in diameter, huge, 15 feet in diameter, huge boulders will just flow down, the river. And you can hear them clashing with each other. All night, if you're on the banks of Ganga, you can't sleep because of that noise of the boulders banging against each other. Now also you can see that. You go beyond Uttarkashi and all. That is Ganga is like that. So Ganga coming down, she's going to just wash away the whole Bhumi. Who can receive her? So Shiva. So he says, because he is Kutastha, he is Sthitaha, he is unmoving. Why is he unmoving? Because he is infinite. To move you need space, Only then you can move. But Bhagavan is all pervasive. Because he is all pervasive, Bhagavan is called as stationary. He is stationary. He doesn't move because there is no place to move. He occupies everything. So thus, he is Kutastha, he is Sthitaha, he is unmoving. The Lord alone can receive that. And he receives her in his hair. I don't know if you all recall any time. If you have seen a picture of, this artist draw of Lord Shiva receiving Ganga, how is his hair? I don't know if you notice, his hair is open, His hair is open. It's not jata. Jata is later on. When he's meditating, you see Ganga sitting there. But when he's receiving Ganga, his hair is spread out all over. He's called as, Vyomakeshi, the one whose hair is all pervasive. So that is Ganga. So the one who, and then in fact, Shakti, Parvati is called as Vyomakeshi. So the one who's the consort of Vyomakeshi, the one whose hair is spread all over. In Lalita Sahasranama, you will see she is called Vyomakeshi. Kundabadantam Suresham, the one whose teeth are like the jasmine, means white like jasmine flowers. Koti Surya Prakasham, whose light, whose effulgence is like even 1,000 Koti Suryas, 1,000 suns. Aham Bhaje Marga Bandhu, the one who is as a companion, as a traveling companion, I worship him. Mandara Bhute Rudaram, Mandara Ragendra Saram Mahagaurya Duram Sindhura Dura Pracharam Sindhurajati Dhiram Bhaje Marga Bandhum Rajati Dhiram Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Shambho Mahadeva Mandara Bhute Rudaram, the one who gives desires, who grants the riches of desires, like even what? Like Mandara. There is Mandara mountain, there is also Mandara tree. So one of the trees, there are 5 trees, Kalpavriksha, Parijata, Mandaraha, Harichandana and Santana. These are the 5 trees. They are called as wish, like Kalpadruma. These are the trees that fulfill your wishes. They are supposed to be there in the garden of Indra Devata. So the trees, wish fulfilling trees, they are called. They fulfill all our desires. But Bhagavan fulfills more than what our desires. Because what we don't even know what to desire for. But he gives things which we even cannot ask for. Then Mandaragendra Saram, whose Saram, whose strength is like the mountain, like the Mandara mountain. I have talked about this. So the one whose Kutas thumb, Mahagauri Aduram, the one who's close to Gauri. Aduram is close to. So the one who's close to Parvati. She is half of him in fact. Ardhanarishwara. So the one Shakti, the Lord Parvati goddess, is the one who's non-separate from him. Who's Sindhura Dura Prachara. The one who's the complexion of Sindhura, the complexion, reddish complexion. Sindhu Rajati Dhiram. Dhiraha, the one who is tranquil, the one who's deep, the one who's kind. Like what? Ati Dhiram. Like what? Sindhu Raja, like the ocean. So the one whose calmness, tranquility is like the calmness of the ocean, deep ocean. Unto that Marga Bandhu, my friend, my companion, I worship. Appaya Rajvendra Geetam Stotra Rajam Patedyastu Bhaktya Prayane Tasyartha Siddhim Vidhatte Marga Madhye Bhayam Chashutosho Mahesha Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Shambho Mahadeva. So Yastu Pathet Bhaktya. So Appaya Yajvendra Geetam. So this Geetam, this Stotram, which is sung by Appaya Dikshitar, then what? The one who Pathet Yaha, the one who recites this, the one who says this, Bhaktya, with bhakti, with devotion. Prayane means during a journey. Then journey. This is Laukikam or Paralaukikam, Yeah. So during, in fact they will recite this. So when people go traveling, so they will chant, especially, get on a flight. You don't know what's going to happen, You're hurtling through space at 500 miles an hour for hours and hours and hours before we land Delhi, So who knows what happens? You can't come down straight in one piece if you come down. So that means come down without landing. So who knows, So people will chant this. This is a stotram to be chanted when you're embarking on a journey, or of course the Paralauka also is a journey. So we have to quit one day, get on a flight and take off. Tasyartha siddhim vidatte. So the one who fulfills the desires, his desires will be fulfilled, he says. Marga madhye abhayam. and then on the way, the one that will give freedom from fear, security. Chashu Toshaha Maheshaha. So the Lord who gives fearlessness in our journey of life. So I will just recite this whole thing one time we will do. I thought it's a nice prayer to know for oneself. And it's simple. Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. So this later on we will sing it together as a chorus. Okay. Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Palavanamrat Kiritam, Palavanamrat Kiritam, Palanetrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam, Palanetrarchita Dagdha Pancheshu Kitam, Shulahatarati Kutam, Shulahatarati Kutam, Shuddhamardendu Chudam Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Ange Virajat Bhujangam, Ange Virajat Bhujangam, Apragangataranga Bhiramottamangam, Omkaravati Kurangam, Omkaravati Kurangam, Siddha Samsevitangri Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Siddha Samsevitangri Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Nityam Chidananda Rupam, Nityam Chidananda Rupam, Nihnuta Shesha Lokesha Vairi Pratapam, Nihnuta Shesha Lokesha Vairi Pratapam, Kartasvaragendra Chapam, Kartasvaragendra Chapam, Krittivasam Bhaje Divya Sanmarga Bandhum, Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Kandarpadarpagnamisham, Kalakantham Mahesham Mahavyomakesham, Kalakantham Mahesham Mahavyomakesham, Kundabhadantam Suresham, Kundabhadantam Suresham, Koti Surya Prakasham Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Koti Surya Prakasham Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Mandara Bhute Rudaram, Mandara Bhute Rudaram, Mandaragendra Saram Mahagaurya Duram, Mandaragendra Saram Mahagaurya Duram, Sindura Dura Pracharam, Sindura Dura Pracharam, Sindurajati Dhiram Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Sindurajati Dhiram Bhaje Marga Bandhum, Shambho Mahadeva Deva, Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho, Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Appaya Yajvendra Geetam, Appaya Yajvendra Geetam, Stotra Rajam Patedyastu Bhaktya Prayane, Stotra Rajam Patedyastu Bhaktya Prayane, Tasyartha siddhim vidhatte Marga madhye bhayam chashutosho maheshah Shambho Mahadeva Deva Shiva Shambho Mahadeva Devesha Shambho Shambho Mahadeva Deva. Okay. So, couple of questions.
Did we do bhajan first or questions first?
We can do a couple of questions and conclude with bhajan.
So I still want to know, what do God, Vishnu and Mahadev and Bhagavan Lord Krishna, when they are in meditation, what are they meditating for?
We meditate for something. They don't need to meditate for anything. Because Bhagavan is everything in fact. Yeah. So when we visualize the Lord meditating, the Lord is meditating upon their own form, their own swarupa, nature, of fullness. Means the idea is I am one with myself in the form of fullness. I don't need anything else. So I don't need anything else. I don't need to look for anything else. I don't want anything else. In fact, there is nothing else. The Lord is in the form of fullness. So where we are concerned, we see a separation. So my meditation is to bridge the separation. In oneness with the Lord, then even I don't meditate upon the Lord. I am one with the Lord. When you are one with the Lord, there is no object of meditation. Then you are with yourself alone, if at all one can say. Not yourself as an individual, but the self as one that is infinite, limitless. So the Lord abides in that state. That is indicated by showing that the Lord is in meditation. The Lord is not meditating. The Lord is in meditation. Yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadhaya. Samadhi is to abide. The mind, where does my mind abide? My mind goes here and there. It goes here and there. Yati means to go. The mind goes here and there all the time. Because everything is all scattered, broken down, divided. Wherever the mind goes, yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadhaya. It's like a space, pot space. I have a pot. There is a space. There is a pot space. It is limited. This pot space, just visualize this pot space. It is moving around. I move around this pot. When I move the pot around, what happens to the space? The pot space moves around. Where does it move around? In space. Where does it move around? In space. Where is the space? Because there is space outside the pot. There is space inside the pot. And what is this outside and inside, in fact? What about the walls of the pot? Is there space in the walls? Does the wall separate the outside from the inside? No. The wall doesn't separate because the wall also exists in space. So that means wherever the pot space goes, it is where? It is in space. In fact, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. It can't go anywhere because wherever it goes, it is space only. In fact, it's one space. Where is my mind? Imagine, my mind goes here and there because everything is divide. Wherever my mind goes, it is never away from its own nature. Essential nature. That essential nature is what is non-separation from the Lord we talk about. So when the Lord sits and meditates, there is nothing for him to meditate on. The Lord is in meditation. He is abiding in himself in the fullness that he is. That is how we depict Lord Shiva. Therefore, Omkara Vati Turangam. He is a deer. If his mind is a deer, he is moving around, playing around in this forest, which is Omkara. Omkara is his own Swarupa.
May not be the right question, but when we say in psychology, we try to reach our higher intelligence. So, what's the difference between higher intelligence and God?
It depends on how we define higher intelligence and how we define God. Really. Depends on how we define these terms, Yeah. If I want to use the term higher intelligence for God, as I define God, it all depends, the definition. If I talk of intelligence as that intelligence, omniscience, which is non-separate from Bhagavan, then that is what I'm talking about. Then it's the same thing. See, it all depends on how we want to define the terms. I would say it's the same thing if this is how it is defined. If higher intelligence is defined as omniscience, jnanam, chit swarupam, that we also say, chit ananda, that chit is what is high. I don't think that's what they mean in psychology though.
No.
Yeah, that's my point. That's why I prefaced it. Depends on how we want to define. Right? Psychology doesn't define it like that. So then it's not the same.
I have one question, always have been thinking about it. We have Shiv temples, Ram temple, Vishnu temple. We don't have Brahmaji's temple. What's the reason for that?
There is a Puranic story connected to that.
What is it?
By the way, there is one temple, Brahmaji's one temple is there in India. But connected is that, this, there was a disagreement. So between, there was a column of light that manifested between this Brahmaji and Vishnu. They were having this question about who was greater. Brahmaji thought he was great because he created everything. Brahmaji created, he's a creator. He created the whole Jagat, whole Srishti. But then, where did he come from? He came from Vishnu. Vishnu's Nabhi, So there's always a question. See, if Brahmaji is the creator, then how come he is born of Vishnu? Then why don't we call Vishnu as the creator? These are all simple questions children will ask. So anyway, Vishnu, reclining Vishnu stands for unmanifest. He's sleeping, half sleeping. So he's sleeping on Shesha, on Shakti. That Shakti is the unmanifest. The whole thing is unmanifest. Then to manifest that form, that the Lord as the one who manifests everything is Brahma. Bhagavan is one, formless. As the one who manifests everything, he is called Brahmaji. Okay. So in any case, Brahmaji thought he was the one who was the creator. Then Vishnu was other. So like that they had this issue. So at that time when this light comes, column of light, then you can't see the top and the bottom. So then they decide, okay, the one who finds the end of this light, we'll consider that person as the greater person because you can't see the end. So Brahmaji assumes the form of a bird and flies up to see the top, the end of the light. The Vishnu assumes the form of a boar and he goes downwards. So they go, keep going. They cannot find the end, but they continue. On the way, so this Brahmaji sees some I think it's a flower falling down or something falling down. Then he midway stops and comes back. Vishnu also comes back, saying that he didn't find the end. Brahmaji thinks he found the end. I think she checks with this thing that comes down or something. I don't recall that part of it. But anyway, he comes down and says he found the end, which was not true. So he speaks an untruth. He's saying untruth. So that's why he gets into trouble. So because of that truth. But then later what happens is this column of light, it turns into Shiva. That happens to be Lord Shiva, Parameshwara. So the idea is Parameshwara, is infinite, is infinite. There is no end to Parameshwara. So time-wise also it transcends time. So this creator, all this business, all time-related. So thus, so he manifests as Lord Shiva, and then that light is really what is that temple, in Tiruvannamalai. That Giri, that hill, he is supposed to have remained there as that hill. So the story associated with that. But in any case, because of that, this Brahmaji gets a curse that because of that untruth that he spoke, that nobody will worship him in a temple.
तो फिर उन्होंने पुष्कर में कैसे उनका मंदिर?
एक मंदिर है. That's why I said there is one. It's not that there is no temple, but compared to all the other deities, he is not worshipped like the same way. He is not worshipped the same way.
But I think the main thing, like all these stories, are there to manifest a point. And I think it's to
we have to
term,
see. There's two things. One is there is a symbolism.
Right.
We have to understand the symbolism. That is one aspect of it. The other part also is that it is part of our tradition. The way we grow up, it doesn't carry the same. It cannot be categorized the same way as we categorize fairy tales, Yeah. There is a difference. There is a difference. So even though it's true, they are meant to highlight certain things. But in our own reality, of our life, of our existence, our tradition, our history, they're not so simple. They're not so simple. Because our life is nothing but stories, we live a life. Do we think we live a life just based on just some kind of a perceived reality? Our world, which world do we live in? There is a subjective world, there is an objective world. There is a Bhagavan's world. There is Jiva Srishti and Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti is the world created by the Lord, that we are born into. Jiva Srishti is the world I create. The world I create in my mind, based on my perceptions of the world outside and based on my interpretation of the world outside. I don't just perceive the world, I interpret the world. And when I interpret the world, that is my world. That is the Jiva's world. That is not Bhagavan's world. Whose world do I live in more? Whose world? I am living more in my own world. My own interpretations, mostly misinterpretations. So whole life, but how real is that for me? That is my reality. That is my reality. So which is totally unreal. God doesn't even have a place in that. So we have to learn to live in God's world. In Ishvara Srishti, not in our Srishti. But our Srishti is full of errors, misunderstandings, misinterpretations. So then we make issues about these Puranas, whether they really happened or not. It happened. To us it happened, it happens. If I want to see Bhagavan, if I understand the Lord, so I can have that Lord's presence. That's why Bhagavan manifests in whichever form I am ready to see Him in, because He is there all the time. I don't have to turn away from the world, really speaking. I have to turn away from the world as I perceive it first, in order to recognize the Lord, so that I can see the Lord in everything outside. I don't have to shut my eyes to the world. So it's true. There is a certain way of understanding Puranas, understanding the symbolism, understanding the stories, the message that it gives. But it is very much our reality. Because whatever helps me live in Ishvara's world brings me that much closer to the Lord. That is my reality. Otherwise, what reality am I living in? Well, Superman is a fantasy. Mickey Mouse is a fantasy. Puranas are a fantasy. Itihasas maybe happened, maybe didn't happen. Then what is my reality?
So what's the path for distinguishing these? What's my world and what's Ishvara's world?
That is where Shastram, I have to go back. Shastram guides me. I make a friend, Bandhu, and I hold on to this Bandhu of my creation, thinking that this person is going to be with me all the time. And I lean on this Bandhu, and the Bandhu leans on me. Like two sticks floating down the river, almost drowning and not drowning. Then this is a person who says, so my Marga Bandhu is different. So some people think, what's wrong with you? But then, which is real? So it's all in terms of understanding.
I'm a Kashmiri Sharat.
Yeah.
Kashmiri Sharat says everything is Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
And Lord Shiva, the space, everything, a leaf cannot move without the order of Lord Shiva. So everything, every word, every place
True.
is Lord Shiva.
So in our tradition we have,
everything is Lord Shiva.
the Lord is everything.
Everything.
Everything is the Lord.
And leaf cannot move unless it is ordained by the Lord itself.
So in Shaiva traditions, Lord Shiva is that which is everything is called Shiva. In Vaishnava tradition, that which is everything is Vishnu. In Shakta tradition, that which is everything is not necessarily male. When we say Shiva Vishnu, that means this male conditioning comes in. In Shakta tradition, that which is everything, Ishvara, in fact is called Ishwari, Bhuvaneshwari. So, that is Shakti. Bhuvaneshwari is Shakti. So, that's the same thing. Because everything is infinite. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have, not limited by a particular form. So, we have these three main traditions which worship the infinite in that way. Brahmaji worships Shiva, Vishnu worships Shiva worships. It's all, it's all. They don't have an issue with each other. Their bhaktas have issues with each other. They don't have issues with each other. Okay. Yeah.
Just want to go back to why Brahman is not worshipped in India. There is another interpretation of this, which I want to present before you. Now, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, they are three aspects of the same Almighty.
Yeah.
But in our tradition, it seems that Brahma is more of an anthropological concept, whereas Vishnu and Shiva are more kind of religious concepts. And I tell you a see that how this world came about, who was the creator, and so there must be a creator of the creator, a creator of the creator, and just go back to the very end, you know. So there must be one person we think of who was the creator. But then we also know, according to the anthropological traditions, there have to be two principles, a male principle and a female principle. And the combination of the two gives rise to the Srishti. So in the Puranas, there's a story about Brahmaji, that Brahma is the creator, and he created a woman first, whose name was Shatrupa. And the name itself is very significant actually, in some ways. So the very fact that he gave birth, or he created Shatrupa, so that became his daughter. But according to the story, Brahmaji starts running after Shatrupa. The Manmat that we talked about, the Kamdev that we talked about, it rises in his mind. And he starts running after his own daughter, you know. And Shatrupa is very embarrassed. This is a story from the Puranas. And so she changes her form. She becomes a lion. So Brahmaji becomes a lioness. She became a lioness, and then Brahmaji becomes a lion, and then she becomes a female dog, and he becomes a dog. So I think they just mentioned several species that we find in the world, and this is how, if she transforms herself into one, Brahmaji transforms himself into the other one, and this is how the male-female principle is constantly pursued in that story. So this story is kind of very disgusting socially for us, but anthropologically it makes sense to anthropologists. So it could be, and just concluding here, it could be that because of this disgusting story that we find in our own Shastras, that Brahmaji was just set aside, not as a part of a religious tradition, but as a part of more anthropological tradition. That's it.
I don't know.
But basically,
It doesn't say in the story, it doesn't connect it that this is the reason why he's not worshipped.
No, there's no
That it
such-
doesn't say. Whereas in that other story, it says this is the reason he was given that shapam, that he will not be worshipped. One thing we have to keep in mind when we visualize, consorts. For example, we say, Shiva, Lord Vishnu is married to Mahalakshmi. We say this, okay. Shiva and Parvati. So we cannot always visualize their marriage as we visualize our marriage. Yeah. That who does the dishes, who does the vacuuming, who does this, who does the cooking. Because for us marriage means all these things are there. This is all part of marriage. They're not sitting there cooking and managing a house and children and raising kids and do they agree or do they not agree how to raise Ganesha. All these things is our issues, not Bhagwan issue. When we talk of Bhagwan, marriage there, basically what we are talking of is the male and female aspects in creation. It's always there together. They always go together. Yeah, that's all. Not like our issues are not there for them. So even in creation, it talks about Brahmaji's initial creation are either Manasa Putras. There are two types of creation talked about. One is creation born of Brahmaji's mind. Like you create a dream. So when I sit down there and I have a dream, I dream of a lion. I created the lion. How did I create a lion? Manasam, just by mind. So these are Brahmaji's, Prajapatis are all created from Brahmaji's mind. Then this Daksha and all these people. Then there is another kind of creation which has to do with genesis, progeny. So that is where you have all these marriages, and this is Putras and Daksha's daughters, and this and married this one, married to Prajapatis, all this. So even in Srishti, there are different types of Srishti talked about. One is Srishti of the inanimate, Srishti, is born first. Then there is Srishti connected to organisms. You know, in organism there is a putra is born of called as Manasa. Initially it is all from his mind, everything is born. Then within that which is born, then there is a genesis, progeny, through progeny. And male, female aspects are there. There are other creatures also like amoeba, where there is no male, female. You know. There's also jivas, and they multiply. So it's all just varieties in creation. Anyway.
Earthworms, we don't have male and female.
Huh?
And earthworm also, no?
Earthworm also. But they are hermaphrodite.
Yeah, earthworm.
Amoeba are not, I don't know what amoeba looked upon as.
Everybody.
Can we stop? Amoeba is not looked upon as hermaphrodite, right? No. So, they're just unicellular.